The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in the cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to RAP Paranormal and Friends with your hosts,
Kim Purvis
and Allison Robinson. Make sure to check us out on our Facebook pages, RAP Paranormal and Friends and RAP Paranormal Busters, for up-to-date show information and events. Hey everyone, welcome to another night of RAP Paranormal and Friends. We have a special guest for you tonight. We have David Gagan. He is an author, but first, David has received a BA in mathematics and a BS in master's degree in electrical engineering. He's worked for Boeing Company, he's worked for U.S. governments, the Army, NASA's Electronic Research Laboratories. I mean, he's done a bunch of things. And then after he's retired, he had written a book called The Endless Journey, which was like a metaphysical book on the nature of reality. And now he has a new book out, Our Eternal Existence. So please welcome David to the show. Thank you for finally joining us.
Hi, Allison. It's good to be here.
Yes, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you. Now, with all these other backgrounds that you have, what made you decide to write these books that kind of are spiritual and metaphysical? Like, how did you get into this?
Well, you know, it has always been my passion. My father, when I was a teenager, he was a avid reader, and he read all kinds of crazy books, things like Velikovsky's World in Collision and all this stuff. And he'd give it to me, and he'd say, "Well, you know, read it." And after I was done reading, he said, "What did you think of that?" And I'd said, "You know, I don't have a clue what I thought of that, but it was very interesting, and I can't help but notice that nobody's teaching me any of this stuff in school."
Yeah.
So then I went on. I had to make a living. I became an engineer, and I went through all that. But my passion was always try to figure out, you know, what was going on in the world, what the reality was, and so, you know, I spent a lot of time on airplanes and in hotel rooms, and, you know, I did a lot of travel, and I had time, and I spent my spare time trying to figure out what in the world was going on, and that's kind of how I got into it. And then I retired with a purpose. I wanted to try to put my ideas on a piece of paper, which I found difficult. Took me 3 years to write the first book. Took me 6 months to get the business world out of my head. But that was basic. It was basically my passion. That's what I love to do.
Right. Now, were you brought up as, was it Episcopalian?
I was Episcopalian. Yes, I was brought up in the in the Christian religion, and and I would go to church, and I remember one day sitting there. I was probably 15 or something like that, looking around the church and the stained glass windows and the robes on the minister, and I would think, I don't know what the answer is, but this probably isn't it.
Yeah. Now, in your book, Our Eternal Existence, a metaphysical perspective of reality. For our listeners who may not know, what is metaphysics?
Meta means beyond. So what metaphysics means, it's beyond physics. And and what metaphysics does is it looks at everything that that is possible. It looks at, obviously, science. It considers science. It considers religion and the history of religion. But it also considers ESP, and it considers philosophy. And basically, if something happens somewhere, somebody's got a thought, metaphysics considers it. So I put it in the same ballpark as spirituality, because I think everything that exists is spiritual. There's a spiritual nature behind the physical field, and therefore everything we do, everything we think, is all spiritual, and it's metaphysical. I can't differentiate them.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, metaphysics, people have different views on it, and you're kind of touching on that now, either science or religion, but why do you believe it is important to view this world from a metaphysical perspective?
Well, I think it's the only way to see who we are and to understand ourselves. Science, mainstream science, not every scientist, but mainstream science says that this was an accident. The Big Bang Theory says everything was an accident. Well, if you honestly believe that this is an accident, then life has no purpose. And if life has no purpose, then get what you can, because when it's over, and that's the end of it. And it doesn't really give you an ethical perspective. Religion has its own theories and dogmas, if you will, and it's not really considering all of the aspects of what's going on. If you looked at the ancient religions, they certainly had their head in the right place. They were, the founders of these religions were really very good. But you need to, if you want to understand your life and what's happening to you and why it's happening to you, you need to take a broader perspective. And metaphysics is the only one that does that. The ancient philosophers were basically metaphysicists. So and they had an awful lot of good ideas, especially some of those old Greek guys and the Eastern guys like Lao Tzu and such like that. Awful lot of good information back then, but it's kind of got lost in our scientific world. And science has its place, but if people are hurting, and a lot of people are hurting, they need to realize that they have far more control over themselves than they possibly can imagine.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Now, you also talk about some channeled entities in your book, Seth and Michael. How do they communicate with you?
Michael, Seth put a lot of material in a number of books through Jane Roberts, and some people say that they can still reach the entity Seth. I'm not positive on that. Michael, I go through Shepherd Hoodwin, who is an excellent channel, and it's an easy way to get straight into Michael. But they're both entities. They're both in the causal field, and they although they present the world and the problem a little differently, they're really extremely consistent in their views of reality, what's going on, and such.
Now, why do you say that those thoughts are the greatest power in the world?
Because we're a mind. That's all we are, is we're a mind. The physical body is a vehicle for us to experience this reality, but we're a mind, and a mind has two products. It has thoughts and emotions, and that's it. And that's what creates our world. That's what creates our life. And so it's our thoughts that not only are the greatest power, they're really the only power. And we don't see that because we touch things, we push things, and we think that's us doing things. And it is, but it's our thoughts that are doing these things. Thoughts are basically the only thing that really exists, and they create everything in our world. Everything in existence comes from a thought.
So this has come up a couple times, something similar to this in our show, and I've thought about it a lot. You know, when we pass, like you said, our bodies are just a vessel. I feel like we are still here in existence through like a spirit or our thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, even when people have a near-death experience, which we have talked about on our shows, how do people, and I could be going off, but like how I'm trying to word this here, but when they have a near-death experience, you think that, you know, they can't think or they don't have thoughts, but some people have these visions of what really happened and things when they come back. Do you think our consciousness still stays here after we pass? Like we still have some kind of imprint?
I don't think we have an imprint. Our consciousness, we don't go anywhere when we die. We just move into the astral field. We change our state. So the body disappears on us, but our mind doesn't go anywhere. And the astral field is right here, as are all the other fields of creation. So nobody really goes anywhere. They change state, and that's why it's so easy to communicate with the people that have passed. And that's why when people have near-death experiences, their consciousness leaves the body, and it leaves it for a short period of time, and obviously it comes back, or it wouldn't be a near-death, it would be a complete death, and we wouldn't know anything about it.
Right.
But the consciousness goes, and it communicates with some very wise beings and maybe even family and such like that for a short period of time. But then it needs to come back because there's things that it hasn't done, it hasn't completed. But it's really just and there are other experiences where our conscious leaves our body. There's out of body experiences. You can do those on your own if you practice a little bit and get in a deep trance. So the body and the mind are two totally separate things. We confuse them because the nature of the reality, and that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to confuse them because that's how we have the experiences that we do. Otherwise, we couldn't sense this reality. We couldn't sense the field if we didn't have our bodies, our physical body.
Now you talk about people having out of body experiences. Have you ever tried anything like that before?
I have, and I have been unsuccessful in personally doing it, unfortunately. But I do try during various meditations and such like that, and I'm anticipating being able to do it. But Robert Monroe did a great deal of that a number of years ago, and there's a Monroe Institute that that works with people to help them learn how to do that. But yeah, you can, and the experience have been amazing what they've been able to do. You're able to travel around the world instantaneously. Actually, you'll be able to travel around the solar system virtually instantaneously. So it's a fairly common thing for people to be able to do, should they spend the time and energy to do it.
Now you've tried those things. Now, do you have communications a lot with spirits or any spirit guides or anything like that?
Spirits. Well, yeah, I do. my wife died about 6 years ago,
Oh, okay.
and it turns out that my daughter is very psychic. She knew it was going to happen long before the beginning of the year. She died in August, and she is able to do automatic writing, and the only one she's able to do it with is her mother. So there's a lot of communication between my daughter and that's my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter does also communicates with her. Wow. And as at least one of my grandkids, communicates with her quite a bit. So, but it's easy to communicate with the other reality, the astral plane. Some people are more sensitive to it than others, and it's easy. If you're not sensitive to it, it's easy to find people that are. And what you do is you go in and you tell the person, who you are and the relationship with the person, the name of the person you want to communicate with, and then you don't say anything else. And the person in the that has passed, they'll want to convince you that it's them. So they will say things that only you would know about. So it has to be somebody close to you, right? You can't you can't talk to George Washington and expect know whether he's on the other end or not. But a spouse or a parent or a child or a close friend is an easy person to communicate with, and anybody. And if the person can't convince you, go find somebody else. Go find another medium. Because it's they will be able to convince you, because they'll know things that be able to say things that nobody else would know.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I've heard a lot of people that have had readings that have come up with things that nobody else would know. We actually did an expo, our only expo that we've done, and there was a medium there. Not only, though, did he get in touch with, relatives and things like that, but he also was, with animals. So he may bring out, an animal sound or something, or he would talk in different, he had, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on what it's called. Accents. That's what the word I was looking for. And that is something I haven't seen any other medium really do, though, other than this gentleman that was at the expo that we were at. The one that
sounds interesting. I'll tell you, pets are pets. Your pet goes to the same places you go. They go to the astral plane. They're coming back and forth. They're not all that far behind us. In the evolutionary cycle. When you look at how far we've come, our pets are not that far behind us. And a matter of fact, if you're a highly developed pet, a dog or a cat or something, they may come back, right? Not the next, not in the next life, but maybe in the next cycle, they may come back with a sentient soul, just like we have.
And yeah, that's true. I mean, Kim and I, we go to different locations, and see if we can connect with spirits. And there was actually one place that we actually did get a cat. I saw it with my own eyes, and I'm like, "You guys have a cat?" And she's like, "There's not a real cat here, but we have a spirit cat." And I'm like, "Oh, okay," because I saw it. And then when we were up, we call it the boys' room, we were actually getting meowing through our live feed in that room. And she caught on our SLS. It looked like a cat, kind of scratching my back. So I think, they can communicate with us as well, just as any other spirit.
Well, they can, and you do it telepathically. That's how we communicate when we pass. We don't have a mouth, but we still communicate. And animals communicate telepathically now anyway. And you can see that. It surprises me a little bit that the scientific community hasn't picked up on it. But if you look at a school of fish, and there might be 100,000 fish, and all of a sudden the last one and the first one changes directions simultaneously. And you see that in flocks of birds, and you see it herds of animals over there, and in Africa, and the bison out there, and what they're doing is they're communicating telepathically, and we don't do it very often. Some people can. We don't do it very often because we have our five senses that are really shutting out our inner senses. And the people that are the mediums are able to use those telepathic and other inner senses that to a better extent than most of the rest of us are.
Yeah, I agree with that. And coming and talking about mediums and other planes of existence and things like that. Some people, beliefs are different, but how important are our beliefs?
Our beliefs are really everything. It's we don't realize what happens. We have a soul, if you will, and I explain this in our eternal existence and how it works. But we have a soul, and the soul created us, created our personality by using parts of itself and creating the ego that we have, which is a very small part of the soul. But the soul is its purpose is to help us have this experience, and we can have any experience we want. No consciousness can control any other consciousness. So once we're set onto our own, we can do what we want. So the soul has to decide what we want. So it looks at our beliefs. And so if we believe in things like fear, or we're going to get sick, or we're going to be poor the rest of our life, it says, well, and I'm talking about way deep down beliefs. The soul says, okay, that's what they want to experience, so we're going to make that happen. So our beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. We create them. And the problem is, a lot of times we don't even know what our beliefs are. We have these root assumptions and core beliefs, which are embedded in our psyche, and a lot of times we don't even appreciate what our beliefs are. So we get basically what we expect way deep down inside. If we expect something, that's what we get. Because our soul gives it to us, lets us experience what we want. Now we have a pre-life plan, and the soul has said, "Hey, I want to experience all of this." So whatever you and I experience, our soul has experienced it, and it experiences it through us, psychically through us. So the soul is constantly encouraging us to have the experiences that it wants, but we don't have to, and the soul will give us the experiences that we choose, not that it chooses.
I can see that. Excuse me. Now, going back to consciousness, because we kind of talked about that too. You talk about how this is kind of a fundamental building block, but can you kind of elaborate on that for our listeners?
Yeah, there is only one substance that exists, only one, and that's conscious energy. And conscious energy starts out tiny. I mean, it takes a million consciousness units to make an atom. But each one of those has an awareness, a self-awareness. It understands, it knows that it exists, and it knows its environment. Now, it may not know very much of its environment, especially if it's very small, but it knows that it's aware of things. And what happens, it grows, and it grows through experiences. And it also grows through combining itself in a gestalt type of fashion to other consciousness units. So it creates entities. And you and I are one of those entities, and our soul is a greater entity. And the soul is part of It's spirit, which is a greater entity, than it, and it keeps getting larger and larger until you get up to the Tao, and the Tao, or God, or universal consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, is a total combination of all of the energy in existence, and that is a gigantic consciousness, and we're part of that. So a consciousness is really it's an attribute of energy. It's an attribute of the life force, which is the only thing that exists.
Now, you also talk about how, objects have conscience. How does that differ from us?
Well, an object doesn't have an intent. So it's your car is conscious, but your car has a very different consciousness than you. It's a gestalt, without a doubt. So it's it is made up of many different smaller, tiny consciousnesses, but it doesn't really know it's a car. It kind of knows it exists, but if you have a Volkswagen, it doesn't aspire to be a Mercedes. It just it doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere. You and I have an intent. We have an intent to evolve. We have an intent to do follow our life plan, or to not follow our life plan and do other things, whatever we feel like doing. So that's basically the difference between objects and us. Objects are a combination of a much, much lower consciousness level than we are, but they're conscious. This table that I'm sitting at is conscious to a certain extent, because that's the only thing in existence. And in time, the pieces, the consciousness units within that table, if you will leave the table, and they'll go join other things, and they'll have experiences, and they'll become wiser. And that's where we came from, and that's where everything came from. It all started when one consciousness unit all of a sudden stopped being, a dormant energy and became a living entity, and everything has grown from that, which is kind of amazing, really.
It is. Now, what do you think our purpose on life is? Why are we here?
We're here to evolve. This is one of the hardest places to evolve. We chose it. Nobody forced us to come here. You don't have to evolve through this very difficult physical plane, and I think our planet is one of the more difficult planets to exist on. One of our big problems is we have uncapped aggression here, and in other places they don't. Their aggression only can get to a certain point, and it's capped. Well, the problem with that is, you have an easier life, but you don't grow as fast as we do here, and that's our purpose. Our purpose is to evolve. Now, we have every individual comes down here with specific purposes, specific things that they want to accomplish, they want to experience. So everybody has a different path. But there are some general paths in the evolution. It's one is to understand and appreciate our individuality. Our consciousness is part of a web of consciousness. So when we're not having this type of individual experience, we're part of a web, and that's what we're used to. We're used to a teamwork. We're used to learning that way. So we need to. This gives us an opportunity to understand our individuality, because we are as much of an individual as we are a team member, part of the web, and you always remain. If you're an individual, and everybody is, and everything is, it always remains an individual, even when it's totally embedded in the universal consciousness. It still remembers. You will always remember your life here on Earth and what you experienced, and all the other lives that you've had. So it's we have many specific purposes, but in general, we've chosen this way, and we chose to come here because we have it gives it, because it's so difficult, it gives us a shortcut, and it allows us to evolve faster than if we took the slow road. And there's many beings can have huge success from coming through here, and some beings don't evolve as fast as maybe they would like for whatever reason. But they'll evolve. Everybody will, continue to evolve. But the more you evolve, the more interesting life becomes, or existence becomes. The more experiences that you can have. So there's a motivation that we all have to try to evolve, through this tough stage as rapidly as we can. But that's basically our purpose, is to evolve. And there's, it's a very complicated world we live in, and to learn everything, and we'll never learn everything. Even the universal consciousness will never learn anything. But it's trying to learn. It's trying to learn about itself, because that's the only thing that exists. Well, you and I are trying to learn about ourselves too, because we're a small piece of it. But that's our piece, is to learn about it. And we're all unique. We're each a unique entity. And so what we learn, we offer that information to the universal consciousness. So we're doing basic research, quite frankly, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Now, while you were talking about, our planet is, you believe, is one of the hardest ones to live on. Now, do you think there's other inhabitants on other planets? Do you?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. There are inhabitants everywhere that you look. But again, everything is alive. There is spirits, in the planets and the stars and everything. But there are many other planets that are similar to our planet here, where life exists. That is very similar to our life. And, I know a number of people, my two daughters, for example, started out on other planets.
Oh, wow.
And the planets became, I wouldn't say uninhabitable, but they couldn't live the sentient life that they wanted to live because of the circumstances on the planet. So they moved, and they ended up coming here. Well, they didn't move alone. They moved with a large number of other sentient souls, I'm sure. But yeah, there's life all around, and there's life at our level all around. And what the this is an R&D universe that we live in, and and the powers that be are trying to figure out, well, we got all of these young souls maturing. What's the best way to do it? They don't know the best way, so they try all of these different things, and they learn from them. And so we're part of that learning process to see what's the best way to evolve.
So you say that your daughters come from other planets. Do you know what planets they were from?
No, I have no idea. It was information that Michael, the entity Michael, provided each one of my children separately from me. They each had their own sessions with Michael, and Michael informed them. You can find out. Michael is very interesting, and he'll tell you about your past and how many lives you've had, on this planet, how long you've been on this planet in this particular cycle.
Wow.
And we cycle through the fields of creation, and we have, this universe has 7 fields of creation, and we come from the Tao. And we start off at in the physical plane, which is the hardest, and we go back and forth to the astral plane, and then we go to the causal and the mental and the messianic and the Buddhaic, and we go back. And one cycle through is considered a grand cycle, and a regular cycle would be our cycle on Earth. We go back and forth until we accomplish what our soul feels that it needs to accomplish, that it wants to accomplish, and once it reaches that point, then it'll move on to the next cycle with another, another 1,000 souls or whatever, whatever, they try to move on with. But there's no question that it's trying to figure out, that just gut feel tells you that we're not alone here. But there is so many souls at all different levels, you can go back and forth, and when you die, you can go visit these other these other cultures, and which is kind of fascinating. You're resting, you have a tough life, you don't want to come right back, so and you want to do a lot of planning, and you want to life is supposed to be a pleasure,
right?
And this is the toughest part, but we're supposed to enjoy it, and that's not always easy to do. So we rest and relax when we when we pass on to the astral plane, until we're ready to take on another tough existence for a while.
Now, have you had any readings or any like past life regressions or anything like that done to you to see what you've had done? Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. My last life, I was a Japanese soldier that got blown away in the war.
Oh,
and it was a karmic life.
Yeah.
And so I've had a lot of different lives. That the one I asked Michael what was the one that was closest, that had the most influence basically on this life, and he said my daughter and I were professors in Budapest in the 1500s.
Oh wow!
And she was a math professor, and I was it was kind of sociology, but it wasn't exactly the same as what we have here. And I knew that what I was teaching was wrong, but I didn't know what was right, and I was quite frustrated about the circumstances. So I've had a lot of lives. I think this is my 83rd life or something like that in this cycle.
Oh wow! I have not had any of those done, but we have had a guest on who had to interrupt the show to let myself know and Kim know what they were picking up on. And apparently I was a doctor from like Pennsylvania. I don't remember, in like the 1940s or something, early 1900s, something like that. And that my wife is still with me, but I can't remember her name. I think my name was like Robert, or I can't remember exactly, but I've never heard that before, but he had to stop and tell me that. And he told Kim she used to be a Native American. So, right? Well, you were, yeah. So,
we cycle through everything. We cycle. Our soul wants as many experiences as it can have. So we cycle through all the races. We cycle through the genders. We cycle through the nationalities. We cycle through about everything you can think of, because our soul wants to experience as much as it possibly can. So we have karmic lives. We have lives that aren't karmic. Where you're just trying to accomplish something, whatever it may be, and it's usually a bunch of things. But we choose our parents. And once you choose your parents, you've chosen your race, your nationality, your initial social status, and such. And so we choose all these things, and we can some of the things we can change and during the life, but some of the things we can't. But it's highly unlikely that you would choose the same set of circumstances for a second life or a following life, because you've had those experiences. So what we do is we get biases. So when we come down here, our attitudes and our goals and everything are biased, such that we look at the world in a specific way. So we sit here, and right now, what's the fashion? The big fashion is to say, well, you're a liberal or you're a conservative, right? Well, and then if you're extreme on either one of those, you assume that that's the only way the world can be. But what it'll turn out is if you're an extreme conservative this time, you'll be a liberal probably next time, and vice versa. We look at the world the way we're supposed to look at the world, but we need to realize that there is no right answer. All there is experiences that we're learning from, and that's so we have a tendency to judge everybody, and that's what our culture likes to do, and so we don't realize that we chose to have this, and it's just the way we decided we wanted to see our experiences. But if you're trying to learn about an experience, you'll want to see it from all different perspectives. So in the various lives, we come back, and it may not be the next life. As I say, the biggest one that influenced mine was 500 years ago. So it's so there's a lot of different different ways to go see the world and experience the world, and that's really what life is all about. It's seeing it as many perspectives as you can, and every perspective is unique, right?
Right.
There has never been another Allison Robinson,
right.
Or will there be again? You will come back, but you will not be will not be who you are. You're not going to be the same person.
Right.
You're going to have different beliefs, different ideas, different goals. But you'll take them back, and you'll remember the past lives and the future lives, and you'll gain from it. And the thing is, everybody will gain from your knowledge, and everybody provides a unique perspective. So we're all helping each other grow and evolve.
I agree with that. We do have a question that popped into chat, so I want to get to that before we get to some other questions. But Allie would like to know, so the people who are better at keeping their temper get to go on to an upgraded planet next go around?
No, it's got nothing to do with anything. Nothing to do with anything. Whether you keep your temper or not, you'll learn to keep your temper over time, but you're not judged on that. You can pick up karma, and karma, if you interfere with somebody else's life and you interfere with their energy, we put a lot of energy into this life. We create before we even get here, we create a pre-life plan, and we have all of these things we do. We grow up, and that spend a lot of energy. And if somebody cuts us short and we can't have the life experience we want, then they owe us the energy that they took that we had spent on that life, and that's the karmic part that comes. But it's got nothing to do with whether you can hold your temper or not. I mean, holding your temper might be, not holding your temper might be enough to cause you some karmic problems down the line. So we don't know about how that works. But you don't get judged when you're done this life. You don't get any attaboys or any oh damn it's. You get basically, this is where you are, and this is okay, that was that life, and if there's karma, then your soul has to, deal with that karma in a future life, and when it creates it, and so you don't really, you really don't have a direct relationship. You don't go to a better planet. You chose to come to this planet. You didn't have to come, and you won't come back to it because you've had this one experience here. And you might have 50, 100 lives or whatever you're going to have here. So you're not going to come back. Your soul's going to want to go to another planet to get different experiences. But it's not a matter of a better planet. It's just something different, and it's whatever you want. So there are disadvantages to acting poorly on this planet, but I mean nobody has a pre-life plan to be a terrorist. That's not, nobody would do that. And that's why a lot of the terrorists die young, because the soul finally says, man, this one isn't going real well, and I'm racking up some karma, and I got to deal with it, and we better get out of this one. But when you come here, you plan your exit points just like you plan your birth, and it depends on how you had your life. In other words, you're going to pick your parents. Well, in your pre-life plan, you might pick a dozen people to be your parents, and because sometimes the parents may not have any kids, or they may be done having kids by the time you show up, so you can't have them as parents. So you'll have alternate parents that you go to. You'll pick your spouse, but you'll probably pick, I don't know, a dozen people maybe that can be your spouse. You may not end up with any one of them, but you probably will. But so we choose what we want, and we control the world we want. So it's not a matter of going to a better place the next time. You may choose a difficult life, or you may a set of lives, or you may choose a little easier one next time around. But your soul will do the picking, and it's not going to be based really on how well you live this life.
Gotcha. Okay. I hope that answers your question, Allie. Now, before we start to wrap things up, what do you hope our listeners or readers, once they read your book, what they take away from it?
All right. Our eternal existence, which again is a metaphysical perspective of reality, it helps people. It will help you understand who you are, where you are, and why you're here. And and if you have problems in your life, and who doesn't, it will help you see your problems from a different perspective, and it'll help you realize that your problems were caused by you. They may not seem that way, but there are no victims. But the beauty of them being caused by you is that you can fix them, but nobody else can fix them. You're the only one that can fix your life, and so it's it's something that people will begin to realize that they have control over their life. So I've tried to our eternal existence. It covers a broad spectrum of metaphysics, and it creates generally an overall understanding. It offers you an overall understanding, and even if you're just beginning your spiritual voyage, you'll get enough out of it, and it'll point you in directions to that you can follow up and pursue. This is an individual thing. We're each individually following our path, and nobody can follow our path for us, and nobody can tell us the answers. You have to get it yourself, but it's very doable. But you have to do it yourself, and this book helps you and guides you to see yourself from a much broader perspective, and help you realize that, hey, wait a minute, it's my thoughts that are causing my problems and holding me back. It's my self-limiting thoughts, and once you get rid of those, and which is not easy. I'm not telling you that it's easy, but it'll at least give you a way to move forward on your most difficult problems, whether it's sickness or relationships or whatever it is.
Now, do you have any other projects in the works, or any other books or anything like that?
I don't have any other. I mean, this thing took me 3 years to write. I'm dabbling around with another one, but don't expect it anytime soon. If you're in the Fort Myers area, I have a Sanibel metaphysical meetup group that anybody that's in the area can come to. It's free. It's you can get on meetups and go to Sanibel Metaphysical and sign up. And if you're in the area, please come. I notify everybody when the meetings are. The next one's going to be on the 22nd of January.
Okay.
And so you ask any questions and do anything you want, And any topic you want to talk about, it's fair game.
Very nice, very nice. That's very cool. Now, if any of our listeners have any additional questions or anything like that, how can they contact you if they want to ask you something?
I have a website, davidgaggin.com, and it's David, obviously, Gaggin, davidgaggin.com, and you go to there, and you can buy my book from there because it'll shoot you right down to Amazon where you can get the book, or Barnes and Noble, you can get it, but it'll take you to that. But also there's a place on it that they can contact me directly.
Okay.
And if they want to ask a question or whatever, I'm fine with it. If they want more information on the meetup group, the metaphysical meetup group, I'll give them that. So again, it's davidgaggin.com, and it's Gaggin, the last part, and so I'm easy to get in touch with.
Very nice, very nice. Do you have any social media or anything like that?
I really don't use most of the social media as much as I should. I used to when I had my own radio show.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Then I had a lot of the social media stuff, but I don't do as much of that as I used to do.
Very nice. Okay. Well,
my wife did a lot of it for me, and and so when she passed, I never really picked it up.
Yeah. I did put some links in the chat there, so that way any of our listeners, if you want to find David's book, I posted some different links for different places on there that you can purchase the book. I did put David's website in there as well. We'll post it on our social media as well, so if you don't get into the chat, we'll have it on our social media as well that you can check it out. I'd like to thank everybody who was in chat. Thank you for everybody who was not in chat but listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. Please check us out next week. Next week we have Douglas Hodgson's, I believe is how you say it. He's from Australia. He is an author of Spiritual Revelations from Beyond the Veil, and he's going to be talking about near-death experiences. So join us for that, and I'd like to thank our special guest, David Gaggin, for being on. It was a pleasure to finally get to talk to you.
Finally.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Allison.
I made it through without coughing so much. And
you did good.
Kim and I were battling, and last week I had to leave, and Kim's like trying to read my notes. She's like, I don't know where she left off at, but I'm just going to wing it.
Well, we were smart to postpone this for a couple weeks.
Yeah. So thank you, David, for being on. Please go check out his book, Our Eternal Existence. Like I said, you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Collective Inc. I have links in the chat. We'll post them on our social media as well. So thank you, everybody, and peace out until next time.